Well, the 63-page complaint shows that several confidential informants who are inmates at the prison told investigators that a guard was bringing in drugs. That guard, Michael Mattern, has worked at the prison for 20 years. He's now facing federal criminal charges.
According to the Department of Corrections, says the body of 34-year-old Jamie Bindle was found when staff members noticed she was missing. The female guard was strangled with a microphone cord. Now, police are saying she was killed by a 52-year-old inmate that was planning to escape.
In the Tri-Cities, a separate inmate is back in custody after escaping the Coyote Ridge Correction Center. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office says Joshua Lanter escaped.
Correctional.
Washington State is home to several high-security correctional facilities, each with its own history of violence, unrest, and systemic challenges. From century-old penitentiaries like Walla Walla's infamous pen to more modern complexes such as Monroe and Coyote Ridge, these prisons have witnessed riots, deletions, escape attempts, and widespread staff misconduct. Gang tensions, overcrowding, and a lack of safety protocols often fuel a volatile atmosphere behind the walls. This overview explores some of the most dangerous prisons in Washington where danger is constant and survival is never guaranteed.
Evening, they say roughly 100 inmates caused a disturbance in the prison yard. They say fire extinguishers were also set off in 2 of the housing units. The Department of Corrections say that pepper spray as well as sting balls were used to get the situation under control, but no one, staff or inmates, no one was hurt. Now take a look at this video. You can actually see Sky King flew over the prison yesterday evening. There you can see dozens of men, some restrained, outside of the prison. The Department of Corrections, they believe this disturbance likely happened because 6 inmates have tested positive for coronavirus.
The Department of Corrections says the body of 34-year-old Jamie Bindle was found when staff members noticed she was missing. The female guard was strangled with a microphone cord. Now, police are saying she was killed by a 52-year-old inmate that was planning to escape. That inmate's name is Byron Scherf, and he has a history in Spokane. In the mid-90s, he was convicted of kidnapping a real estate agent here.
Just steps away from a busy street in Monroe sits the Monroe Correctional Complex, the correctional facility where this man, Patrick Lester Clay, escaped on Friday morning. Police say the 59-year-old somehow broke into a staff office, stole an employee's car keys, and drove away in a white 4-door GMC Sierra truck.
Breaking news update right now. The escaped inmate from Monroe is now in custody. Patrick Clay escaped from the Monroe Correctional Complex.
Located just outside Seattle, Monroe Correctional Complex is one of Washington State's largest prisons, housing multiple units including maximum security, minimum security, and the state's primary women's facility. In April 2020, over 100 inmates at Monroe rioted after a COVID-19 outbreak, citing overcrowding and poor safety measures. The unrest forced the state to release some nonviolent offenders to reduce crowding. The prison has also faced allegations of staff misconduct. In 2024, a transgender inmate, Jennifer Jaley, sued DOC after allegedly being retaliated against for reporting safety concerns, claims that included being framed with bizarre infractions. Meanwhile, at the nearby women's unit, a former inmate filed a 2025 lawsuit claiming repeated sexual assault by a transgender cellmate and indifference from staff.
According to court documents, investigators believe Mattern smuggled Suboxone into the Airway Heights Correction Center in exchange for money, drugs, and sex. Federal agents reviewed phone calls from an inmate to 2 people outside the facility. They referred to Goldie or Gold Car Guy.
The Airway Heights Correction Center doesn't have the luxury of locking up rival gangs in different housing units. The prison keeps the peace with tough punishments for inmates who misbehave. But on Sunday, even the threat of solitary confinement couldn't keep tempers under control.
On the walkway in front of the unit, several fights broke out quickly. About 16 offenders were involved.
Corrections officers raced to the yard and tried to pull the fighting inmates apart.
Well, a man wearing a motorcycle helmet held 2 employees at gunpoint while robbing the Cheney Dollar Store Saturday night. Now, police say that robber was an Airway Heights corrections officer. Police arrested this man, Jeffrey Poole, who's been an employee at the corrections center since February of last year. KXLY4's Drew Reeves explains why officers think this may not be his first robbery.
Airway Heights is a medium and maximum security men's prison housing over 2,200 inmates. In June 2020, it gained national attention when 26-year-old Shane Goldsby fatally beat his 70-year-old cellmate, Robert Munger, after learning Munger had abused his sister. The brutal assault, captured on surveillance video, raised serious questions about the DOC's failure to screen cellmate compatibility. Goldsby was later sentenced to 24 years. The prison has seen repeated incidents of inmate-on-inmate violence, including stabbings and shank attacks. Staff described the environment as tense and dangerous. In a separate 2025 case at nearby Coyote Ridge, an inmate died in a similar assault, highlighting the persistent risks inside Washington's correctional system.
Convicted Spokane killer shot and killed trying to escape from a Western Washington prison. Kevin Newland was serving a 45-year sentence for killing Jamie Lynn Drake in 2006. He was killed trying to bust through a fence at the Clam Bay Correctional Facility.
Clam Bay is a remote, high-security prison for men, but its isolation hasn't prevented violent incidents. In 2011, 2 inmates convicted prisoner Kevin Newland and Tacoma Mall shooter Dominic Maldonado attempted a daring escape. Maldonado took a guard hostage with scissors while Newland stole a forklift and crashed through prison gates. He was shot dead just outside the perimeter, and the event led to tighter security protocols. Violence against staff has also been an issue. In 2016, Officer Terry Breedlove was severely beaten by an inmate wielding a metal stool. Staffing shortages have left guards vulnerable, with union leaders warning that officers often depend on other inmates to stop attacks. Despite its rural setting, Clam Bay remains one of Washington's most dangerous prisons.
Well, news now of a death investigation at Coyote Ridge Correction Center in Connell after one inmate killed another. Washington State Department of Corrections says it believed that 41-year-old Justice Sear was assaulted in his cell by another inmate and died. While that inmate has not yet been named, the Department of Corrections says they were placed into restrictive housing.
Local news tonight, the Department of Corrections has reached a $350,000 settlement with 4 people who worked at the Coyote Ridge Correctional Facility in Connell.
Yeah, Christine, the employees were actually drug and alcohol counselors who were contracted through Civigenics to work at the facility back in 2008. Tamaki Law here in Yakima says during the bathroom remodeling project done by unsupervised inmates, those counselors were exposed to excessive dust and toxic chemicals for over 3 months. They say jail administrators were told of the problem but didn't do anything to protect workers or inmates. The lawsuit says the exposure led to severe lung and respiratory problems for the plaintiff.
Tri-Cities, a separate inmate is back in custody after escaping the Coyote Ridge Correction Center. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office says Joshua Lanter escaped this morning. Now, they haven't said how.
Opened in 1998 in southeast Washington, Coyote Ridge is one of the state's newer prisons, but still tough. It holds maximum and medium security male inmates. Inmate violence and drug trafficking have been reported here. As noted above, a 2025 deletion in a Coyote Ridge cell highlights how quickly violence can erupt. Justice Sear was beaten in his cell and died. Coyote Ridge also came under scrutiny in 2009 when 2 inmates escaped by climbing fences. They were soon recaptured, but the episode led the DOC to double-layer its perimeter fence and increase patrols. In general, officers say gang tensions run high at Coyote Ridge. It houses rivals and setups prisoners placed near enemies, which can spark vicious attacks. On one occasion years ago, a Coyote Ridge officer was also found in his office with severe head injuries after an inmate assault. The attacker was swiftly subdued, but the incident showed that no part of the compound is completely safe.
James O'Keefe, OMG News here. Have you heard of the Washington State Correctional Center for Women, which has been in the news for its policy to place men who identify as women in the same prison, sometimes even the same cell, as biological women?
Imagine coming to your room one day and you're in close custody and you turn around and there's a man standing up peeing in the toilet because you have the bathroom in your room and CCU. What? There's nothing you can do.
Located in Gig Harbor, Washington Corrections Center for Women is the state's largest women's prison and operates as a medium security facility. Though escapes have been rare, just 2 in over 50 years, the prison recently reinforced its perimeter with an upgraded 6-coil razor wire fence costing $1.6 million, reflecting a focus on tightening security. Despite its reputation for relative safety, Washington Corrections Center for Women has faced troubling allegations. A 2022 lawsuit filed by inmate Mozzie Clark claims she was repeatedly sexually assaulted by a transgender cellmate, with staff allegedly ignoring her reports. The case raised concerns about cell assignment protocols and inmate protection. Gang-related bullying and contraband have also been reported within housing units. While female prisons generally report fewer violent incidents than men's facilities, the Washington Corrections Center for Women challenges show that serious safety and oversight issues persist. Established in 1886, Washington State Penitentiary, nicknamed the Pen, is the state's second largest and oldest prison, holding over 2,200 inmates. Guard towers and aging stone walls surround the facility, which has a long-standing reputation for violence. Gang activity, including the Aryan Brotherhood, remains a major issue. In 2012, 3 correctional officers were hospitalized after being attacked by inmates in a gang-related assault during a meal. More recently, in March 2024, an inmate met his demise by another prisoner in a brutal attack. Even visitors and student observers have witnessed the danger, with one describing the atmosphere as filled with fear. Though escapes are rare, a 2007 attempt saw an inmate scale an inner fence before being stopped by a warning shot. Washington State Penitentiary remains one of the most volatile prisons in Washington, where violence and intimidation are part of daily life. Despite varying security levels, in locations from remote outposts like Clam Bay to urban edge facilities like Airway Heights, Washington's prison system reveals a troubling pattern. Violence thrives where oversight falls short. These facilities face mounting pressure to improve safety for both staff and inmates, yet many remain plagued by assaults, gang influence, and deep institutional flaws. As the state grapples with reform, these prisons stand as stark reminders of the harsh realities within the American correctional system, where protection, justice, and rehabilitation often come second to control and containment.